guys, if you're new to Deception Bytes, hit the like and subscribe button and be sure to hit the bell to be notified of future videos. If you wish to support the channel, the links are in the description below. Now, fasten your seatbelt. Here we go. Okay guys, I'm back and it's March 3rd. It's 11:06 p.m. Eastern Time and I'm on to part 2 of the Q drops from today. So let's get into it because I'm not even sure if I can cover it in 2 videos. I'm not sure. I'm going to go as far as I can tonight. And I don't even know. Q could have been posting away as I've been posting, and this may not even catch us up. Actually, let me go check real quick and see what he's been doing, because he has been busy today, let me tell you. Well, takes a while for it to come up, but I do want to check. Okay, well, maybe not. Well, oh, there we go. Yeah, he's posted more since I've even, so I won't even be able to catch up tonight. So I may have to wait until tomorrow. I'm going to go as far as I can tonight to get us to where, to a point where we can catch up. But then, I'm going to have to leave it and do a part 3 tomorrow because I've never seen him post this much ever. It's incredible. Not that I'm complaining, just takes a while to go through. All right, so this is picking up from where I left off in part 1. We're going to just keep motoring ahead, and I'm hoping that I can get through a good amount of these before I need to nod off for the night. Okay, so here Q is referencing an anon who is referencing an earlier bread by Q, and this anon is saying check number 2657, and that's the Q post that he's referring to, and he goes huge. And here it is. When will the public discover that Ted Cruz was also illegally surveilled per pre-POTUS Republican nomination? And he was. CIA illegal surveillance, members of Congress? Yes. CIA illegal surveillance, members of the press? Yes. CIA illegal surveillance of the Senate Intel Committee? Yes. Now, I'm not going to go out and read these two. We have looked at this before in the past, and, you know, it's being referenced here by Q, so it's important, but I won't have a hope of ever covering all this if I read all these articles. It just won't happen. But both of these articles refer to instances where the CIA spied on the Senate. So that's what these 2 articles reference. Now, I may in the future, and somebody asked me this, I may in the future provide a document that lists all the links on it, so that people can go and investigate for themselves. I know you can go out to the Q posts and look, but a lot of people don't feel comfortable doing that for some reason. So I may do that in the future because I know people have asked me, and it's a valid request. So anyway, who ordered the surveillance? Now, actually, I'm not sure who ordered the surveillance. I don't know the answer to that, but it was obviously someone within the government, and somebody probably pretty high up. What jurisdiction was provided to authorize surveillance of elected officials? Surveillance falls under the scope of FISA warrant or intel to department or outsourced to Five Eye. These are the ways that they can spy on an American citizen or a member of Congress. It has to fall under the scope of a FISA warrant or be internal to the department or outsourced to Five Eye. And we've already discussed that Five Eye is able to, Australia is able to spy on American citizens, and UK is able, Canada, New Zealand, and so forth. But America cannot spy on its own citizens. So they get around that by Five Eye, and all they need to do is get somebody to, you could go over to Australia and be able to view anything that you want to view and it not be logged or flagged. So pretty easy to do. Reality check. Friend or foe, we all spy on each other. Should we be spying on ourselves? Should we be tasking others to spy on ourselves in order to avoid U.S. law? No. What difference does it make? You're saying it's illegal to spy on American citizens, then it's illegal for Americans to spy on American citizens. What difference does it make if you go to another country and just get that same information? It should still be illegal. And you should have to, if you want to put someone under surveillance, have to get a FISA warrant. That makes sense. So surveillance falls under scope of FISA warrant, or, okay, we just read that. Reality check, friend or foe, we all spy on each other. Should we be spying on ourselves? Should we be tasking others to spy on ourselves in order to avoid U.S. law? No. Was Five Eye established, designed by the Intel Committee as a back-channel surveillance apparatus to avoid domestic laws, triggers, and congressional Senate oversight? It sure was. Sure was. That's exactly why it was established. What key logs exist to monitor Five Eye intel collection? Well, if you are using, there we go. Okay, for a second I thought the cat had chewed through my cord again, but she didn't. He was just up here actually before I started recording, and I thought, oh, I hope he stays so that you can see him, but he jumped down. Anyway, so what key logs exist? Okay, well, if you're in the States, if you are an American, somebody that has the ability to, and you want to spy on an American, yes, all of that is logged. However, if you go to Australia or Canada or any of the other Five Eye nations and want to spy on an American citizen, no, there's no logs. You could do it. Nobody will know. Anyway, yeah, real smart. What ability do former government officials have regarding ability to access sea-level Five Eye offshore data? They have full authority to do that. So they still retain their clearance, their security clearance. So they can go to Canada, wherever, and view whatever they want. No questions asked. Nothing logged. Yep. How did Hillary Rodham Clinton gain access to highest class special access programs, closed system access, and able to transfer to remote home server? Question above should scare every single American. How did China locate primary CIA assets within China and murder them? Well, it was because of Hillary Rodham Clinton. She is the one that got our CIA assets within China murdered. Her. Yeah. Money buys power. No punishment. Brennan by Hussein administration regarding surveillance of Senate. So this is obviously who ordered the surveillance is Brennan. Up here, when he asked who ordered the surveillance, who's Brennan? Under the Hussein administration, and he received nothing, no punishment. All right, and Q is acknowledging this. Now, an anon copies and pastes a password, and Q confirms and acknowledges it. The links go to articles that outline examples of CIA spying on the Senate. So let's go on. And the next one is a picture, and it says sheep no more, dark to light, Q. And underneath, this is in Dutch. And under this, Q has written, we stand together. Where we go one, we go all. Q. Now this shows it's a worldwide movement, yellow vest protest. The sign in Dutch reads, the world is about to change. Interesting. But I do believe that he has included this just to show that this is a worldwide movement. I think people have had enough. They've had enough. And here is the next one. And it goes to Nadler announces sweeping document request, declares Trump obstructed justice. When the original insurance policy expires, Mueller, and you must attempt to protect those in harm's way by reapplying blockade plus maintain leftist hatred and fake news narrative, well, I think that should say you make up crap. That's what they do. The Mueller report did not contain any evidence of collusion on Trump's part anyway, so in order to keep the narrative intact, they need to instigate new investigations. Let's just take a quick look at this. I'm not going to read through all of it, or we will be here until probably July. And I know you don't want that, and I will get really tired by then. So anyway, Nadler announces sweeping document request, says Trump obstructed justice. I really doubt that. House Judiciary Committee Chairman Jerry, hang on here, this is probably going to start. I hate when it does that, you know. What? House Judiciary Committee Chairman Jerry Nadler, who would oversee any impeachment proceedings against President Trump, announced that he will submit more than 60 document requests to the White House and Justice Department on Monday, a barrage that Nadler called the opening salvo in new and wide-ranging investigations. Everybody, do it with me now. Collective eye roll. Oh, it does. There's something about that does make me feel better. Anyway, without naming Nadler, Trump tweeted late Sunday morning that he was being persecuted by some very bad, conflicted, and corrupt people in a witch hunt that is illegal and should never have been allowed to start, and only because I won the election. And you know what? He's right. Congressional Democrats have repeatedly promised to exercise tight oversight of the Trump administration since securing a majority in the House of Representatives in last November's midterms. But Nadler's comments signaled clearly that Democratic leaders are no longer counting on Special Counsel Robert Mueller's forthcoming report on possible Russia collusion to contain damning evidence against the Trump administration. So Mueller struck out. And instead of just saying, well, he didn't find collusion because there is no collusion, well, they're just going to keep investigating until they find a crime or, you know, realistically invent another one. Because the invention of this one didn't work out too well for them. Tomorrow, we will be issuing document requests to over 60 different people and individuals from the White House to the Department of Justice, Donald Trump Jr., Trump Organization, CFO, Alan Weisselberg, to begin the investigation to present the case to the American people about obstruction of justice, corruption, and abuse of power. Nadler, Democrat, New York, said on ABC News. He added that the goal of the probe was to present the case to the American people about obstruction of justice, corruption, and abuse of power. Yeah. Okay. Well, we're not going to read that whole thing. We're going to go back here, and it says, when the original insurance policy expires and you must attempt to protect those in harm's way by reapplying a blockade, plus maintain leftist hatred and fake news narrative. Q. So, and that's what they're doing, and I think we're all aware exactly of what they're doing, but I don't really like it. You expect these types of things to go on in the third world. You don't expect that to go on in the most powerful nation on earth. You just don't. Now, here is the next post, and it says, interestingly enough, at what stage in the game do you play the trump card? Q. Well, I looked up the definition of trump card. I think we all know what a trump card is, but trump card, the final resort, but often the easiest way out. Your most powerful option in succeeding at anything in life. Unfortunately, once used, the trump card can rarely be used on the same person again. If reused, it will rarely be as powerful. So the trump card is something that you throw down to win, and it is powerful. It's the end of the game, baby. You throw down your trump card, and it's going to trump the other guy's card and cards, and you'll win. When it is, now he says, at what stage in the game do you play the trump card? When it is most needed to win. You don't throw your trump card down at the beginning of the game. Why would you do that? No, you save that, baby. You save it until you're backed into a corner. Then you throw that card down and watch their faces. Usually the trump card wins the game, so it is played at the end, or when it's most needed. You're backed into a corner, you're going to lose. Oh, trump card. Yeah. So they're about to play the trump card. POTUS, the administration, is about to play the trump card. That's why this is coming up now. We are drawing to that point. We are in stage 2, draining the swamp, and we're going forward. And the next things to happen when that D class comes, oh, it's not looking pretty. Not from what Q says, and Q should know. Unless you believe that it's just a teenager in a basement, in their mother's basement, playing a role-playing game. I don't know who would be foolish enough to believe that at this stage. Probably somebody that has never really looked into Q, because it doesn't take you very long before you realize that, gosh, there's something to this. And why are there intelligent people looking into this and believing in it if it's just a LARP? You don't think that all these people could see through it? Just saying. All right, here's the next one. All right, now Q says, I'm sorry, a yawn just tried to take over my entire face. All right. Why have there been no arrests? Why have specific dates been mentioned only to see no action? Define game theory. And he's answering the question right there. Why haven't there been any arrests? Why have specific dates been mentioned only to see no action? Game theory. It's their game theory. Why must disinformation be provided? He's answering again. Why no arrests? Why the dates mentioned only to see no action? Disinformation. It's game theory. It's their game theory. It's how they're throwing them off. Define open source. Open source is anything that you can find that's out there. It's not secret. It's not, and I know he's not asking about open source software or anything like that, but open source is anything that's just out there. It's accessible to the general public. Define public purview. I don't know. Public purview. That is an odd, hang on here. Public purview. I missed that. Let's get the definition. The body or enacting part of a statute, the limit, purpose, or scope of a statute, the range or limit of authority, competence, responsibility, concern, or intention. So let's use it in a sentence, shall we? If the cemetery is private or part of the church, the records may be under the purview of a caretaker, or the most come within the purview of a. Okay. So I guess the public purview would mean that which is accessible and able to be viewed by the public, because it would be under their purview. So, I mean, if it was under the purview of an attorney, you wouldn't be able to have access to it. But this is public purview. We do not let our enemies walk through the front door, and he's asking that as a question, but no, of course you don't let your enemies walk through your front door. That would be ridiculous. Define plausible deniability. Well, I think we all know what that means. Plausible deniability. I think that's pretty standard. Why was it important to first clean house within the FBI and DOJ? Public info. Well, that makes sense, because, you know, if you've got all these indictments and they're going to be brought to trial, and they're, you know, you can't have a dirty FBI and DOJ, because these people are going to come before them, and then if that person's dirty, or maybe they're involved, they're going to let that person off. So you just can't do that. Why was it important to first clean house within other ABC agencies, non-public information, like CIA, FBI, not FBI, but CIA, NSA? You know, it's the same thing. And these are not new questions that he's asking us. He's asked us these things in the past, but he's wanting to keep it in the forefront of our mind so that we understand why things are not happening on the schedule we think it should, and why there has been disinformation at times, and why people say, oh, well, Q said this and then it didn't happen. Well, you know, we're not the only ones reading this. The deep state's reading this. The whole world's reading this. So, yeah. What are the duties of the FBI? Investigate. What are the duties of the DOJ? To bring justice. What does military When does military intel have jurisdiction? They have the jurisdiction over, I'm not sure actually when they have jurisdiction. I'd have to find that out. I was going to say something, but I'm not sure it's right, so I don't want to say it. What vested power does POTUS have regarding military intel versus the ABC agencies regarding matters of national security homeland? Think umbrella surveillance. What agency does the FBI report to? What is the role of the AG? Does the AG oversee the firing of FBI and DOJ senior, mid, lower staff? How many FBI and DOJ were fired / forced? Now we're going to get to these answers. Does Russia recusal block AG from this responsibility? Yes. It did, and that's why it was a problem with Sessions, because he recused himself, and why Whitaker stepped in, and now he was the acting attorney general, and now Barr is the attorney general. What time period did this occur? Who appointed and tasked Huber? Who appointed and tasked the OIG? Who was AG? That was when Sessions. 0 leaks, none. Now, transfer from AG1 to AG2, that would be Sessions to Barr. Why might that be important? Because Sessions was recused, so there's a lot of stuff that he couldn't do that Barr can, who has not recused himself. Why might this be important? Well, I just explained it. How do you avoid politically motivated attack, obstruction, attempt to block or obstruct Mueller? Optics are important. When are optics not important? Think Whitaker. Define stage set. Who recently walked on stage to take command? Barr. Think Bill Clinton impeachment. Has the stage been cleaned and cleared for the next performance? If the stage is clean, can the performance begin? How might transparency, D-class, fit into the dialogue? Well, I think the D-class is going to come once everything's clean, personally. Define thesis statement. What benefit does this provide Barr? This is not simply another 4-year election. This is a crossroads in the history of our civilization that will determine whether or not we, the people, retain control over our government. POTUS, logical thinking. Q. Now, I'm going to refer to this because it's very long, and this person has already done a fantastic job of decoding. So again, why reinvent the wheel? There's a lot of stuff here. So if someone else has done a really good decode, then I'm not above giving them credit. And this is actually, and it's long, but this is Dio Presso Liber from the website Disclosure Italia. Now, let's see what he has to say. So much for going backwards. Q keeps posting. New Q post. I'll come back to the rest from early. So he's just taking care of some business there. Why dates mentioned and no action? Funny, I was just explaining the why in prior post. U.S. military intel must defeat deep state at their own game. Game theory. Define November 2017. Define November 2017 disinfo necessary against this enemy. Moves and counter moves. Deep state getting taste of their own psychological warfare. Yes, they are. They play their best cards and expose their hand, trying to take action, trying to take attention away from what they think will be the big disclosure. If you've spent any time in an intel career or in any career in which you are outwitting your opponent, you can recognize the essential nature of the methods Q implements for disinformation purposes. A counter-intel campaign against deep state, U.S. military intel and NSA and POTUS and General Flynn, they are much brighter than these idiots in the deep state, and they have truth and God on their side. Okay, great info in this post from Q. Last 2 years have been about setting the stage via AG Sessions, whole maintaining optics of non-political involvement by POTUS for public. Sessions did his job and oversaw phase 1, rooting out rooting out of deep state actors in FBI, DOJ. Likewise, Pompeo was doing same thing in CIA as was Sessions in DOJ. Pompeo identified leakers, cleaned them out. CIA was easier to root out because it can be kept under wraps due to classified nature of job. Once Pompeo was done, Hassel took over and Pompeo moves to state to do the same, the State Department. Once Sessions identified leakers and began removing heads of department in FBI, DOJ, proper people appointed. The proper people were appointed. After he began removing them, the proper people were put in place. In the meantime, Huber was operating his investigation and submitting evidence to grand juries to prosecute the deep state. Phase 1 finished, and AG, the Attorney General, transfers to Whitaker, and a placeholder, really, because he was just the acting Attorney General, to transfer, removing Sessions, seen as political appointee by POTUS, and further insulating AG Barr as he comes on scene for next phase, which is the revealing of crimes to the public. And that's the phase we are in right now. It's coming. Q saying the stage is set and Huber has his foundation in place for prosecution. This is really good. This is a really good decode, if you ask me. It's really good. It's much better than I could have done. Now, it's time to tell public of crimes. If Dems try to accuse Barr of politics, it won't fly. Barr was involved in leading calls for impeachment of Bill Clinton and wanted Hillary investigated, but he was also friends with Mueller. DOJ/FBI are now cleaned. I was speaking to an FBI agent friend this weekend, and the department is cleaner than it's ever been. Now they can enter code Fed law and prosecute crimes such as deep state. Military intelligence has authority to intervene and collect intel when nation under threat of attack by bad actors. POTUS has direct control of U.S. military intel under Constitution via War Powers Authority. The CIA has been compromised and was seen as a direct threat to our national security. POTUS had constitutional authority to order military intel to conduct surveillance of deep state in CIA and FBI DOJ. Barr now has what he needs to prosecute this massive criminal conspiracy against the deep state. Barr's job is to present the thesis to the public and show evidence now to support that thesis so the public can be made aware of the deep state attempt to overthrow our country. D-Class will provide the evidence to disclose to public the crimes, and the public will be supportive of Barr prosecuting those crimes. This is the Attorney General Barr show now. POTUS must stay removed so the Dems can't say this is politics. It is difficult waiting for arrest, but necessary. Q is telling us this is a crossroads we are at right now. We don't have another chance. We must get it right. If it takes until 2020 to get this right, and POTUS and Q believe this, I support them. Patience. And again, this is De Oppressor Liber, and from the website Disclosure Italia. Now, there was something up here that I wanted to, thesis, a thesis statement. And any of you that have gone to university have written essays that have thesis statements, and it's a statement that the thesis statement is your hypothesis. For example, this is a stupid example, but like, the earth is flat, and then beneath you have all the points that prove your thesis. So that's what a thesis is. Alrighty. Now, let's go on. There's a lot of stuff here tonight, a lot of good stuff here, and it's so voluminous that it's hard for me to do it justice, but there's so much. Literally, you could write 10 books about just what he's dropped here, seriously, because if you look behind each of these statements, there's a lot of stuff. His drops are they're coded and they're layered. There's a lot of layers to them. And really, that's why it's good that there's a lot of people looking at this, because everybody draws out something a little bit different. Anyway, let's go on because time is a ticking. Da-do-do-do. All right, here is the next one. Ask yourself a very simple, logical question. What is a FISA warrant application? Well, we all know what that is. We've been over this many times. It is an application presented to the FISA court where you think there is probable cause to have someone under surveillance. But there has to be probable cause. You can't just say, I think there might be something going on with this guy over here. Can I surveil him? No, there has to be probable cause. Just like getting a warrant. You know, the police can't just go in your house for no reason. They need probable cause and they need a warrant. So it's the same thing. You go to the FISA court and you have all this documentation and you say, okay, this is the target that I want to be surveilled, and these are the reasons why I think that we need more evidence here. So yeah, there has to be probable cause. It is highly confidential, safeguarded product of the United States government. Absolutely it is. It is a product of the U.S. government. And so he says, if it is a product of the U.S. government, how did the UK or Australia know what was listed inside of the package? Well, that's a very good idea. I mean, a good question. Good idea. I'm getting tired. That's a good question. How did they know? How did they know what was in that FISA warrant? I don't know. Think call to POTUS to prevent D-class, sources and methods. If the U.S. government requests UK or Australia +2 to spy plus campaign insertion, so not only were they spying, but they inserted people into his campaign on an American presidential pre-nominee plus POTUS elect, is there a chain of command to approve such authority? Oh, yes, there is. Absolutely. It would have had to come down from Hussein. It had to. Paper trail of the chain of command and umbrella spy metadata. Yep. If not tasked and targeted under 5I, what legal authority existed to engage the targeting? None. None. Think Nunes' statement. Not through normal collection, gathering, and reporting or oversight regarding 5I. So they didn't collect this data. They didn't even collect the data in an authorized way, in a, how did he put it? Through normal collection, which means that it didn't follow through the normal collection process, that it went through an abnormal collection process or an unauthorized collection gathering. Did the dossier provide the bulk data anchor for the spy campaign? Yes, and Q has told us that many, many times. What entity paid for the research dossier? Well, that was Hillary Clinton and the DNC. Opposition candidate? Yeah, well, Hillary Clinton. And isn't that wild that she paid for that against Trump, who was also a nominee? Yeah, unprecedented. Like I said, this is unprecedented. What U.S. ally completed the collection of false data? UK and Australia. Why was it important to use sources within the UK versus US? Because they would have access to data that we did not have, or that they couldn't obtain in the US without being flagged and logged. So how do you circumvent US law? By doing exactly what they did. What other anchors were provided to the FISA court in order to gain the warrant? Well, Q is letting us know here that we don't know at this time, but the D class will show. So the D class will show what other anchors, aside from the false dossier, were provided to the court for them to gain access to warrant, or to gain the warrant to gain access to surveillance. What other data collection process, was the other data collection / process worse than the dossier? Well, I'm thinking that it was, because usually when Q asks a question, it's a statement. So I think that he's saying that the D class is going to show that they had other data that was worse than the dossier in the way that it was collected and the process they went through to collect it. Why didn't the FISA court require in-room presentations of the data prior to sign-off? Who signed applications 1 to 4? Who traveled to the UK/Australia post-election of POTUS? Why were security privileges removed from select formerly active individuals? Remember that? Remember he removed their security clearance and they weren't happy about it. Treason, sedition, corruption at the highest levels of government worldwide. Speaking of worldwide government, in Canada, he's about to go down. How do you repair a bridge without closing it down? You can't. You can't. Not that I'm aware of. I don't know how you would repair it without closing it down. But, Q. Now, again, the yawn is taking over my face. And I probably made some of you yawn. I know I did. Okay, again, this is by Geopressor Lieber, and he has done a fantastic job, so I couldn't even hold a candle to this. So, how did Australia and UK know the content of FISA warrant, which is supposed to be highly guarded, classified intel gathering mechanism? Thank you, John Brennan and Clapper and Hillary Rodham Clinton. All three are more loyal to the Crown and the deep state. Think bloodlines. Hussein approves the UK and Australia spying on POTUS. A plan like that would have required approval from the then sitting president, who was Obama. UK and Australia later begged POTUS not to disclose this, as they were worried their sources and methods would become public. POTUS brilliantly held this over their heads to get them to cooperate and implement umbrella spying on Clapper, Brennan, No Name, and Hillary once it was discovered. The other two countries, New Zealand and Canada, the governments of these countries are now at the mercy of POTUS. You know, and I have been saying that for a long time because it's evident. It is so evident that he has something on them. And I've said that before. It is so evident. Because of that, he wouldn't be so cocky and just sure of himself if he didn't know he had the trump card. He could have declared war on them, but he brilliantly chose another option. Hussein would not have had constitutional cover to spy on POTUS and Senator Cruz through Five Eyes alone, so a false dossier was created as a basis for spying and paid for by Hillary Rodham Clinton and the DNC. Q told us that there were other dossiers that had even worse info in them. They will be disclosed via the declassification. The FISC, the FISA court, signed the FISA application without ever hearing the basis for them to avoid record of illegalities in manner and methods in which the intel was gathered. Could also be that corrupt FISA judge signed off at behest of Hussein. There's a lot we don't know until the D-class happens. We know a lot from Q, but intentionally not clear picture as to what actually in dossier and FISA apps feel like I'm writing a book. Let's see, we know a lot from Q, but intentionally not clear picture as to what actually was in the dossier and the FISA applications. Feel like I'm writing a book. Little more time today, so more detail than usual. Brennan and Hillary, among others, had security clearance revoked due to treason evidence and sharing intel. Burning bridge likely refers to relationship with UK and Australia. How do you save it? You make them... Okay, how do you save it? You make them your bitch, basically. Sorry for the crass terminology, but these clowns couldn't could have had their greatest ally bomb the hell out of them and cut all ties for spying on POTUS. Yes, he could have. How hard would it be to take over Canada, for goodness sakes? Seriously. The gravity of what the UK and Australia did to our president and is not okay. The gravity of what the UK and Australia did to our president is not yet realized. Anything short of Q telling us to read between the lines regarding article about what Huber prosecution doing, exactly what Q told us. Prosecuting deep state for crimes against children, fraud, trafficking, criminal organizations, etc. Allow me to temper my rhetoric a bit. I realize Australia and UK have many patriots, and I know POTUS would never have gone to those extremes. Merely making a point, he has constitutional authority to do so. The patriots in these countries are as horrified as we are about the Clintons, and they are. It's evident they are. So that, a lot of information there. Like, you're probably on overload tonight. I certainly am. All right. Now, let's take a look at this. This is the next one, and Q gives us a link to an article that we're going to go out and look at. Now, he pulls out the most important parts. Sometimes reading between the lines provides ... Huber says every one of the prosecutors is already handling about 20 cases. They range from domestic terrorism to court-authorized wiretaps of criminal organizations to child pedophiles and those who would exploit our children, criminal aliens, big fraud schemes. So that is a direct quote from that article. And actually, I don't think I'm going to go out to it because there's so much stuff to get through tonight. And Q has already pulled out the main points that he wants us to look at here. He's telling us what we need to look at and what's important in this, which is the fact that every one of those prosecutors is already handling about 20 cases. And he goes through some of the nature of what those cases are. Now, let's go on. And yes, this is actually... Q gives us, well, this Anon actually provided this, and these are the sealed cases filed 11/30/2017 through 2/28/2019. And there is a ton of them, like a lot. It's unbelievable. You know, we can just go through here. Alaska doesn't have too many. Must be pretty clean up there in Alaska because they only have 102. But look at here, California Central, 7,290. Wow, that's the most on this page anyway. Let's go down. We're not gonna, go through all these, but I just looking at some really high ones. Actually, I think that California Central's maybe the highest state. Maryland has 2,000 some. Well, there's many that have 2,000, but let's see over here. 3,000, Texas, Western Texas. That's probably trafficking, I would say. But so interesting that California, well, here's California Central has 7,290. California Northern has 3,471, but California Southern only has 1,278. And look at that, Florida Middle. Boy, that must be because in the middle of Florida, that's all the snowbirds that go down there. It's full of Canadians. They only have 6. They're like really, they're even better than Alaska. So I guess, middle Florida might be a good place to move. I don't know. Oh, look at this. No, Northern Mariana Islands. They only have 4. That's really good. I don't know. I just get a kick out of this. Wyoming only has 25. Yay for Wyoming. And let me see here. 4, that kills me. Yeah, Wyoming, they're the next lowest. And Alaska. People are too cold to commit crimes up there. All right, so let's go down. Dun, Dun-dun-dun. All right. Now it says February 2019 update to sealed cases, 5,832 new, 82,324 entered 10/30/17 through 2/28/19. That's an average of 5,145 per month. This is the link to that, which we don't need to go out and look at because it's already pulled out here. And sorry, it says sorry, no heat map this month. A couple of our soldiers are down with medical ailments. And QAnon responds to this person and says, thank you, Anon. Note, not all are USA versus nothing to see here, Q. Yeah. So, interesting. No? I think it's interesting. Let's go on. Just because we can. And here we go to the next one. And we have a link to a Twitter account, which belongs to this guy right here, who I don't like. And it's very rare that I don't like people. Usually I find something good in everyone. But, you know, people like Pelosi and Waters, and they're just so corrupt. But this guy, I'd never heard of him before, and I wish that I hadn't. Ted Lieu. Unlike the narrow scope of Mueller's investigation, the House Judiciary's oversight mission is broad. Did POTUS commit any crimes or misconduct? Our investigation will either exonerate Trump or it won't. We will follow the facts wherever it may take us. And he's responding to this person, Judd Legum. House Judiciary Committee to issue document requests on Monday to 60 different people and entities connected to Trump to begin the investigation to present the case to the American people about obstruction of justice, corruption, and abuse of power. Yeah. So Q references that and then says, read the comments. Those still asleep buying the narrow scope new narrative shift. Yeah, the new narrative shift is that, oh, well, Mueller had a really narrow scope. Took him 2 years and over 200 interviews, but it was a really narrow scope. But ours is going to be much broader. So what does that mean, that it's going to be so much broader? Is it going to cost the taxpayers millions and millions and millions of more dollars? They're trying to extend this to 2020 because they want to keep this in the news. That's exactly what they're doing. And, you know, people in the know can see through them, but they think they're so clever. That's what is laughable about all this. They think they're so clever. Yeah. If the scope memo was never unclassified, version 2, how do the Democrats make this statement? Hashtag facts matter, Q. And I put, hey, wait a minute. The Mueller report is classified, so how does he know? How does he know that there's nothing in there or that it was narrow or anything about it? Don't know. Funny how that is. Yeah, but he sounds a little bit smug. Don't like it. Now this. All right. I'm going to go out to this one, and well, let's just go out to it first. Let's take a boo here. Or not. Stop yawning. You're making me yawn. Okay. Hillary Clinton says country is in full-fledged crisis during speech in Selma to mark Bloody Sunday. Yeah. If it's in full crisis, it's because she put us there, don't you think? So, hang on. All right. Former Secretary of State and presidential candidate Hillary Clinton offered a stark view of the country on Sunday, comparing the current crisis in our democracy to the turbulence that occurred amid the civil rights movement of 1960s. I find that, I'm not black, and I find that offensive, extremely offensive. You know, believe it or not, I was a very, very, very young child. I remember my parents taking me. We went down south every single year. My mom was a teacher, and we just, during the March break, we always went south. So I remember being down there, and seeing a fountain that said blacks only or whites only. And I remember I went to take a drink. Well, there was a fountain that said blacks, but I just went over to the fountain. I mean, I didn't know. And my mother said, "No, you can't drink out of that fountain." And I said, "Well, why not?" And she said, "Because you have to drink out of this fountain." And I said, and then when she explained it all to me, I mean, I was very, very young, but it left such an impression on me because I remember being in tears because I didn't understand. Why can't we all drink from the same fountain? And the same thing with the bathrooms down there. I couldn't believe it. I was like, why does it say whites only? Where, like, I didn't understand. And so for her to compare what happened in the civil rights movement to what's happening now, and it's really the crisis that we're in is because of her, that's offensive to me. It's really offensive to me. Speaking during a reception in Selma, Alabama to mark the 54th anniversary of Bloody Sunday and to receive the International Unity Award at the Martin Luther King, that's a laugh. She receives a Unity Award? You kidding me? At the Martin Luther King and Coretta Scott King Unity Breakfast, Clinton said that the United States is facing a full-fledged crisis in our democracy. Well, it is, thanks to her. This is a time, my friends, when fundamental rights, civic virtue, freedom of the press, the rule of law, truth, facts, and reason are under assault. Clinton said, according to The Hill. Clinton is one of a number of Democratic leaders in Selma this weekend for the ceremonies surrounding the Bloody Sunday anniversary. Not to be confused with the Bloody Sunday massacre in Northern Ireland. Actually, a good friend of mine was actually her father. Well, she was in it. She was extremely young, but she was in the Bloody Sunday. She's from Belfast, Ireland, and her father actually went to help to aid with the injured. Anyway, so I'm not going to read all of this. It's just, to me, this is offensive. And here's a woman that goes to Haiti and all of these children disappear. And remember, I don't know if you guys remember, but I had mentioned to you that there was a reason why they put a premium on black skin. And I knew it. I knew that I had read this somewhere and I found it again. The reason why is because they can get more of the, I don't want to say it, it's the stuff that they get out of the adrenal gland. And if a person is frightened when they die, it produces a high in the people that take this blood. And apparently, because of some difference in the skin, there is more of that in blacks than there is whites. So that is why, and this woman knows that. That is why they targeted Haiti and why all those children disappeared. And she is saying that the crisis in our country compares to the civil rights movement. That's I don't even know. I can't even think of a word. But anyway, let's go on. So you've got that, and Q says full-scale attack. Yeah, it was a full-scale attack on Trump, who is not racist. March Madness, prepare, Q. March Madness, prepare, Q. Let's go on. And here's the next one. And I do believe this is the same one we looked at before, but I need to check because I can't remember. Let's shut some of this down. Oh no, it's a new one. We cannot avert our eyes to the evidence plainly before us. My statement on the Judiciary Committee's massive investigation into Donald Trump and his associates, I commend Chair Jerry Nadler for his leadership and look forward to working with him. Well, isn't that special? I knew it. I knew if I scrolled down, I'd see something from an anon. Burn in hell, deep state. You gotta love them. Your 5 minutes are up. Attention all anons, we have a happening. Please report to the command center. I love this. Q sent me. Anyway, all right. I don't have time to dawdle tonight. More statements made, evidence without presenting facts. If evidence existed under broad scope, number one, would Mueller have the authority to pursue? Yeah. Now, what is this? The special counsel, okay, he's pulled out the parts of this that we need to look at, so for the sake of time, I'm not going to go out there, but the special counsel is authorized to conduct the investigation, it means confirmed. He corrects this later on. He means confirmed. To conduct the investigation confirmed by then FBI Director James Comey in testimony before the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence on March 20th, 2017, including 1. Any links and or coordination between the Russian government and individuals associated with the campaign of President Donald Trump, and 2. Any matters that arose or may arise directly from the investigation, and 3. Any other matters within the scope of 28 CFR 604A. Because no evidence existed and or was found by Special Counsel Mueller, was scope number 2 enacted in an attempt to go outside of the intended engagement? Yes. And this is Document Cloud, Rod Rosenstein memo outlining scope of Mueller. And let's go take a look at this real quick. And it says, why is scope number 2 classified only to Attorney General and Deputy Attorney General and a select few others read at terminal only, which means they can read at the terminal only. They can't take it with them. If evidence exists or existed, why did R&D members of the Senate, Republican and Democratic members of the Senate conclude no direct evidence exists? That's a good question. This is the biggest mess we have, I think, ever had in our country. It's unbelievable, really. Now, I hope this isn't real. Okay. On May 17th, I issued orders entitled Appointment of Special Counsel to Investigate Russian Interference with the 2016 Presidential Election and Related Matters. Appointing you to serve as special counsel for the United States Department of Justice, order number 39152017, the order. The order authorizes you to conduct the investigation confirmed by then FBI Director James B. Comey in testimony before the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence on March 20th, 2017, including any links and or coordination between the Russian government and individuals associated with the campaign of President Donald Trump, and 2, any matters that arose or may arise directly from that investigation. The investigation order BI and 1 and 2. The May 17th, 2017 order was worded categorically in order to permit its public release without confirming specific investigations involving specific individuals. This memorandum provides a more specific description of your authority. The following allegations were within the scope of the investigation at the time of your appointment and are within the scope of the order. So, and these are the allegations and blah, blah, blah. And it says you have the authority to continue and complete the investigation of those matters and additional matters. For additional matters that otherwise may have arisen or may arise directly from the investigation, you should consult my office for a determination of whether such matters should be within the scope of your authority. If you determine the additional jurisdiction is necessary in order to fully investigate and resolve the matters assigned, or to investigate new matters that come to light in the course of your investigation, you should follow the procedures set forth in 28 CFR 604B. So there you are, and he was to look into allegations that Paul Manafort, and there's a lot of this that's been redacted. So anyway, let's go back. Where were we? Okay, so why is scope number 2 classified? And the scope number 2 is any matters that arose or may arise directly from the investigation. Why is it classified to the Attorney General and the Deputy Attorney General and a select few others? If evidence existed, why didn't the Republican and Democrat members of the Senate conclude no direct evidence exists. And then there's the NBC News. Senate has uncovered no direct evidence conspiracy between Trump campaign. I'm not going to go out just to save some time. If evidence existed as per your statement released today, again, why did the Senate, Republican and Democrats, just conclude no evidence exists? Well, that's a darn good question, isn't it? When will Americans wake up to the Democratic Party con that is continually pushed without facts, without support, and supported and further pushed by the media arm of the Democratic Party, the fake news media? Reading the comments on these tweets further demonstrates the seriousness of media brainwashing in our country, whereby statements are considered fact without the need to provide proof. Groupthink, control of the narrative. If enough people state the same thing without providing evidence and or support, does it become factual to those caught in the loop? National crisis. Q. Yeah, we have a national crisis, but it's sure not the national crisis that Hillary Clinton thinks we have. All right. And now, and remember when I mentioned the typo, here an anon has pointed it out. He says confirm typo, and he corrected it. And Q acknowledges that and says confirmed. One of my cats, oh, must be the good cat, Picasso. I hear lots of sounds in the other room and the kitten is sleeping. I love when the kitten sleeps. All right, here we are at the next one. And of course, we have this picture that we've seen many, many times saying we are Q. And now we've got a link to another Twitter account here, the same guy. Let's go take a look at it. I think it might be the same one, but no, it isn't actually. This is just leads to his page, his Twitter page, and Q is talking about this picture right here. And it looks like the inauguration, if I'm not mistaken. But this guy's a piece of work. He says, husband of Betty, the love of my life, father of 2 great kids, USAF, United States Air Force veteran, member of Congress, in that order. Also, I don't take orders from Vladimir Putin. Give me a break. Seriously, give me a break. All right. Now, now this is Q speaking to this guy, Ted. You should update your T-banner pic to properly reflect the crowd size when the event actually started. Have you ever witnessed a public all-out attack by the opposition party against the President of the United States? Those who would normally hide in the shadows are forced into the light. Panic. Patriots in control. Yeah. Q. Let's go on. Now, Q linked to another Twitter account and said enormous evidence. However, Twitter has since taken that down and this is what we get. So they pulled that down pretty quick. Now, I don't know if it was the people that, meet the press status. I don't know if they're the ones that deleted this or if Twitter deleted it or what, but it's sorry, that page doesn't exist. So unfortunately, we can't show you. I can't show you. There's only one of me. I can't show you what it is because I don't know. But I'm pretty sure that when Q realizes that, he's going to post it. He's going to post a picture of it because I'm pretty sure he probably saved it. All right, let's go on. And here we've got another post by Q, and who is referencing an anon, and this anon is referencing a former Q post which says enormous evidence. Oh, great. He see, that happened really quick. I didn't even realize he had corrected it. So here is and then beneath it says presidential harassment by crazed Democrats at the highest level in history of our country. Likewise, the most vicious and corrupt mainstream media that any president has ever had to endure, yet the most successful first 2 years for any. Isn't that the truth? And Q says, at what point is it statistically impossible? Q. And maybe March 7. Yeah, I think what he's pointing out here is the fact that Q posted this link to the Twitter and Donald Trump tweeted this at the same time. So that is what he's pointing out here. This isn't the tweet that we're missing, but he's pointing it out that they posted that at the same time. At what point is it statistically impossible? Q. I think it ceased to be statistically possible a long time ago. So now this Q says here, pass bread, 7 seconds. We're getting closer to 0.0000. How is that possible? Close proximity? Q. Well, it could be, yeah, it could be close proximity because obviously Q has full access to POTUS and POTUS to Q and the whole Q team. So we don't know which Q this is, but yeah. And here, Q is referencing this anon that's bringing up the point that that Twitter page doesn't exist anymore. Says page doesn't exist on Twitter when I tried the link. Ugh. And Q acknowledges and says the power of the people. Tweet deleted. Q. So maybe they don't have a screenshot of it. I don't know. Now, here we are. We're getting to the end, but of course Q has posted since I started. So I'm going to have to do those tomorrow because it's getting late and, you know, the Sandman is beating the heck out of me. So we've got this one, and Q is referencing this anon, and I love this. They put this graphic here. It says Chan Investigation Agency, CIA Bakery Division. Blessed are the bakers, and it shows Pepe baking bread. And it says Keck Q. I go to click on the Meet the Press link and it says that page doesn't exist. The deep state is taking down evidence as fast as you are posting it. Nothing to see there. And Q acknowledges and says, you are the news now, Q. And indeed we are. And I love this. I love it. Q, the last one that we're going to look at tonight, and there are a few more which I'm going to catch up tomorrow, but he posts this by Bill Slater, this status, and I love this. Here's Hillary with Cohen and Lanny on her knee, and her hand, it looks to me like they're puppets for her because her hand is behind them. Trump is a racist, a cheat, and a con man who won't accept the outcome of losing the 2020 election. And actually, it's, you know, Hillary that's a racist, a cheat, and a con woman who won't accept the outcome of losing the 2016 election. Yeah, that's the truth there. So there you go. Actually, is there one up here? No. So we're at the end of the tweets that I've prepared anyway, and I don't want to actually, it looks like there's a few others, like 3 or 4, and I'm sorry, but I'm just too tired to continue on tonight. But I promise you I will get caught up tomorrow. If there are Q posts tomorrow, I'll bring you those. And if not, then I've certainly got a whole whack of Q-related news. So anyway, I'm going to call it a night there. And I hope that you guys are well, sleep well, stay safe, and stay blessed. And I will see you, hopefully, tomorrow. Good night.